Hello and welcome to How to Build a Theatre, a podcast charting the foundation and growth of an English language theatre in Brussels. My name is Phil Wilcox, a singer and outreach coordinator living in London.
And my name is Edward McMillan, the artistic director and co-founder of the Bridge Theatre here in Brussels. Hi Phil, how are you doing?
Hi Ed, I'm very good, thank you. I've got a little bit of a cold coming on, so apologies if I'm a little hoarse today.
Apology accepted.
Thank you. It's not the dreaded Rona though. I think we're okay. How are you?
Busy, excited, and ready to have a little chat with you today on our podcast. So what are we talking about actually?
We have a very exciting date, in fact an anniversary coming up, don't we, at the Bridge?
Okay, tell me more.
As if you don't know, playing coy with me. Tomorrow is exactly 1 year to the day that, you probably should get this right. It's 1 year to the day that the company was registered, is that right?
Exactly, yes, exactly. Yep.
So we're a year old. Happy birthday.
Woo!
So happy birthday us, and happy birthday you as founder of the Bridge Theatre in Brussels. But we thought we'd take a time just to go back to base, go back to episode 1, and just you and I have a little chat about the Bridge and find out where we are, and where we're going. So, how do you think it's been? How's the first year been?
Such an open question, Phil. Thanks.
Isn't it? We'll get more specific, I promise.
It's been a journey, a massive journey. I had this vision in my head of what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, which I still have in my head, and we're not there yet. But obviously the journey of how to get to that place was less clear to me at the very beginning. And so it's kind of been about finding a way through that makes this theatre venture kind of work for us and work also for Brussels as well. So it's been great. It's been extremely all-engulfing, as any new business venture can be, as any entrepreneurs out there will know. But it's been fascinating and really exciting. And I am, despite all the challenges, which we might get onto, I'm still extremely happy that I quit my job at the European Commission and went into this venture and try and create a new theatre for Brussels.
Well, and it's going, from my point of view, over here in London, but also catching up. For listeners who don't know, Ed and I are old school friends, which is how we come to do this podcast together. And catching up with you over Christmas, I think we all got together. It was great to hear how much you've managed to achieve and how quickly you went sort of full time on the project as well, as like you say, as an entrepreneur, being able to adjust your whole life, not just make it a sort of side project that was running alongside your other job or your main job or whatever, but actually how quickly it became your whole life. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I first started thinking about the Bridge maybe 3 years ago now, I guess. And kind of from that moment on, I was always thinking about, okay, how can we make this project financially viable, and also how can I commit myself full time to this project. And so I was very lucky to be on a relatively well paying job in the European Commission, and I saved a lot of that money, and that enabled me to kind of do the things that we're doing now and have a little bit of financial security in my own personal situation. I mean, and this kind of project needs this full-time input basically to make it work, and it needs more than just one person. And I think that the first few months were difficult, but I still had the excitement of this is a new project, let's go for it. But it was also extremely difficult because it was just me and going in lots of different directions, and especially when you have nothing to show for your work, I very much felt sometimes that I was basically fake it until you make it kind of thing. Like I had nothing to show, just me talking, trying to persuade people of the project, and some people quite a lot of people actually kind of bit this, and they saw the potential in the project. And I guess through that, we've slowly managed to expand the circle of people who, from just me to a slowly growing circle of people who are kind of involved in the project. And that is so exciting for me because it means that, slowly over this past year, it's become bigger than me, and it's now an entity on its own, basically, which is really cool.
Amazing. We'll come back to that. I think we'll come back to your sort of your personal involvement in the Bridge, but to give everyone a sort of overview of the year. So you were registered towards the end of February last year, and although, like you say, you'd been thinking about it for a bit of time beforehand, so you'd kind of hit the ground running, and that was registering the company was part of the foundation of the project, wasn't it? By summer, you were already actually running events, so you had the summer workshops, didn't you, towards the end of August? Following that, then you produced Vincent River, wasn't it? And that was October, November time. And around the same time, you had some further workshop. Was it the All Together Now?
Exactly, yeah.
So it's been a busy... Now, things in life are relative, but I know that's a busy year for you because you're setting up everything from scratch. A company which has been running for 50 years and has got 300 people on the payroll or something, that might be a quiet year for them, but I know that's gonna be a busy year for you, and because you're always, while you're running one thing, you're always looking to the next 2 or 3 things and trying to look further and further down the line. How are you finding that? How far ahead are you able to plan at the moment?
I mean, maybe just to go back on those three initial things that we did, which we kind of put together as a pilot season. I mean, as I kind of mentioned before, at the very beginning, in the first few months, it was really psychologically difficult for me to be putting myself out there and to be saying, hey guys, give us support, when we didn't really have anything to show. So it was important for me to kind of do things quite early on that we could say, look, this is the kind of thing that we could do or can do in the future. Please support us. Or if you want to see more of this, give us your time or whatever your energies, and help us grow this theatre. For us, participation side of things, and especially with kind of older, like teenagers, basically older young people, and also adults, that is important for us, and that's why I kind of wanted to start with this summer workshop, this summer stage, 1 week of intensive tuition. And it was really scary to set up, actually. And also, it was balancing lots of different things. And as an unknown entity, we just didn't really know if anyone would come, if anyone would sign up. And in the end, it was extremely successful. We had 40 people, which was a really nice number. And they were all doing different activities and on a rotational timetable. And we put together, even despite COVID, we put together a little kind of showcase for parents on the final Friday of this week-long course. And that was really nice, and that was part of the plan. But I have to admit a little bit that both All Together Now and Vincent River weren't really part of the initial business plan. So actually, they both came a lot earlier than I was expecting. So I was expecting our first production to be more like May, June 2022. It came about purely because we had an opportunity to put on something, and we wanted to grab that opportunity and make this project much more concrete and real, which it did. And that was the amazing thing about Vincent River. It suddenly made the Bridge Theatre into much more than the summer workshop. It made the Bridge Theatre into an entity that existed in the minds and hopefully the hearts of people as well. And All Together Now was similarly a bit unexpected in a way. It was just an opportunity that I saw. It was this part of this big global event of everyone doing the same show over the same weekend, as a kind of theoretically post-COVID get-together. And I thought it so nicely embodied the values of the Bridge Theatre, which is all about connecting people through culture, that I just thought we had to get involved in that. And that's part of the reason why we did it, even though it wasn't really part of the original business plan per se. So yes, it was extremely busy in those first few months, especially from August until November. I mean, having those 3 events pretty much at the same time was very busy and very tough, but also extremely exciting.
It kind of what you said there about sort of having to mould and change your business plan essentially, and even within the first sort of 6 months to a year. It was kind of summing up that like you say, that post-COVID period, wasn't it? You know, there were lots of arts organisations basically with stuff ready to go, and we were in and out of lockdown, and sometimes that would literally cut things off at the, you know, in technical rehearsal weeks and stuff like that, and or just after the dress had done, and then the lockdown would come in and absolutely scupper it. So there was all this sort of stuff either already on the boil, you know, ready to get thrown onto stage as soon as we could open up again, or in people's minds, you know, there's a bit of a sort of like a traffic jam of like, we would normally have been able to put on X number of productions, but because of COVID and because of lockdowns, we haven't been able to do any. So we've got this backlog that we just want to get out there, and we want to get on with it as quickly as possible. Perhaps for a new theatre, a foundling theatre, if you will, it was actually, dare I say, there's silver linings to the COVID situation. You know, it gave you that space to have this stuff ready on the boil to go, and as soon as you were able to, as soon as you knew you could get a venue, get the creators in the same space to rehearse, and also then to get an audience into the same building safely, you could just hit go on it, and it seems that that's what you've done.
I absolutely agree with you, Phil, actually. A lot of people have said to us in general, COVID is a very ambitious time to launch a new theatre. It was a very risky time. And actually, no, I think it's the perfect time, partly because I do feel very sorry for all the cultural institutions who were having to deal with all the COVID issues that over the past 2 years. I mean, and all the artists as well. It's a dreadful time, very difficult to plan anything. I think doing the summer workshop was a bit of a risk, but you know, it's summer. We saw the numbers, like you can kind of see a pattern during COVID. So I didn't think it was that much of a risk. And in a way, okay, if you in the end, if you had to cancel, then you cancel. And there were challenges for COVID with regard to the summer workshop, as you know well, Phil, because the original plan actually was to build a bridge with the UK and bring over UK based performers and instructors for that summer workshop. And in the end, we weren't able to, because exactly of the COVID travel rules and the fact that British citizens at the time weren't allowed into Belgium. So it did affect us, but I think also it was the perfect time in that for Vincent River, for example, it meant that we had this amazing director who was available. We had two fantastic actors who were also available, and I don't think in normal situation, I just don't think they would have been available. They would have been doing other fantastic jobs, so for us, we benefited from the lack of work that was out there, and they were, you know, everyone also was so happy to be working again in theatre after so much time, after so much absence. So that was really nice.
And of course, audiences were champing at the bit to get back into the theatre and experience it again. Aside from COVID, do you have any other big it's not even a question. What other challenges were there?
Yeah, I mean, nothing, I guess, that was so massively difficult to overcome. There were like unforeseen things. For example, in the summer workshop on the final Friday where we had this performance for adults, and then at about 11:30 in the morning, there was some fuse in the studio that we're using blew, and it cut the electricity for the whole building where we were. And as we were coming to the final performance, so we had to kind of rush around. We found a battery-powered speaker that we could use. We managed to set up a few lights at least, but it was one of those moments. It was like, this could not have happened at a worse time, really. But the kids were fantastic dealing with that. And then there were things that, for me as a new producer, I come from a theatrical background, but I've never produced professionally before. So there were things for me that were challenging because I didn't really know how to do them. I think for me, one of the most exciting and challenging things was right at the beginning of the journey of Vincent River, where Robert the director, and I decided to hold some auditions in London. We were both going to be in London at the same time. We held auditions in August. And as a producer, it was my job to set up these auditions, and I've never done that before. So okay, great, let's do some auditions. How do we do them? So, I asked around, asked a few friends. I managed to, you produce a casting call out basically, and we sent it around. We had a look at different agents and saw their clients and kind of passed it around to different agents in the UK. And the response was really nice, actually. But that was just one example of something that I've never done before, which I kind of had to learn on the hoof. Yeah, and try and find a way through. But I guess that's the learning of all entrepreneurs. You always find a way. If you want to achieve something, you find a way and you make it work. Yeah.
And of course, we're in an industry of great collaboration. It's like it makes me think of anything. My family are very handy. I come from a family of mechanics and builders and carpenters and stuff like that. And I'm a musician, and I have very little idea about these things. But if I need to do something in the house and I don't know how to do it, I go to YouTube, and someone somewhere will have made a video telling me how to do that. In the arts, it's sort of like that, but with real people, isn't it? Anything that you haven't done before, someone will be out there and willing to collaborate with you and help you and say, right, this is what you do, go for this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're touching on the importance of network in that question. And that's been, everyone always tells you that network is important in any career. And I think I've really, especially starting something from scratch, it's really, really important. And I think that because of my background in UK theatre, that's in a way something that's a bit unique that I'm bringing to the mix here in Brussels, and that's something really exciting. But at the same time, I was at the beginning, completely lacking the network within here and in Brussels, and so that's something that we've been really focusing on a lot, especially together with my business partner Eva. We've really been trying to, it's about telling people about the project basically and letting them know and seeing what support there is and who can help and who might be interested in helping. But before I started this project, I had quite a limited expat network focused on foreign policy issues, which is great, but not really when you're setting up a theatre. So yeah, we've been working a lot on that as well.
So just finally on sort of another challenge before we go on to talk about the green pastures of all the positive and all the success that you've had, because all these challenges do eventually lead to that. They lead to creation of theatre and outreach and participation, kids and adults coming along and experiencing the wonderful world and all the benefits that theatre can provide. Getting audiences in, we've already touched a little bit on COVID. And how challenging that's made just organising things. How about the reception, to people in Brussels? Because English language theatre in Brussels isn't new, is it? You're not sort of making a big statement about being completely a new idea or the only people that do it. Far from, but you are trying to do something a bit different. So what's the reception been like from people in Brussels? Some people who are already producing English language theatre in Brussels seem to think they were having their toes stepped upon or something. How did you manage to deal with that, or can you explain it slightly better than I've just done rather clumsily?
I also exactly have never ever wanted to step on anyone's toes. The city is English friendly enough, as in it's the second most widely spoken language in the city. A third of the inhabitants, so that's 400,000 people, speak English well or very well, so at a high level. Over 200,000 people here work because of the international institutions, and Belgians themselves have great English. So it's a very English-friendly city, one of the most English-friendly cities, and that's partly because of the weird specificities of Brussels, which is notionally a bilingual city, French-Dutch. So from my point of view, there is room for different actors and different organisations to do things in English. And what for me was important in starting the Bridge Theatre is to bring professional theatre here to Brussels. Now, obviously, I'm aware, I lived in Brussels since 2015, and so there is like a rich also heritage here of amateur English language theatre companies here. And they produce great work. And also some of those people involved are ex-professionals or even continuing professionals who are kind of using the chance to perform in English here in Brussels, in the city that they live in. I welcome any conversation that we can have where all people who do English language activities, especially theatrical activities here in Brussels. That's part of the reason why we started the Bridge Theatre in a way, because there is already a rich heritage of English language theatre in this city. It's an enormously English friendly city, and you have these 6 amateur theatre groups who produce work as we discussed actually in the very first episode that we did, and you also have other groups doing things in English. You have these improvisation groups who do classes and also performances in English. You have this place called Acting Studio Brussels, which provides more kind of serious training for people who really want to focus on acting. So there is a whole world of English language theatre out there for those who want to perform and for those who want to train. And so we're not, we're trying to provide something that perhaps isn't so readily available in Brussels at the moment, which is professional theatre in English, which, yes, you can sometimes access at some of the Flemish theatres here, but it's a bit hit and miss. You don't know when they're coming. It's also about a lot of the people we speak to, they don't know that these English language theatres, these English language productions are happening. Similarly, the Belgians are not aware of these English language theatre groups either. I mean, yes, okay, some people get involved, but apart from that, it's a relatively niche field, let's say. So our aim is to bring English language theatre for all of Brussels, and I think we kind of saw that in the audience who attended Vincent River. We don't have any solid statistics, but I can tell you from a roughly kind of keeping an eye on the kind of names that we had of people coming, there were a lot of people from, Eastern Europe, for example, a lot of Polish coming, and so it wasn't, and a lot of Flemish, I have to say. So it was a mixed bag of people who wanted to come and enjoy the theatre, enjoy intense theatre, because Vincent River was quite intense, and see something that isn't usually available in Brussels. This kind of these 2 terrific actors, directed by Robert, who has directed all around Europe in different places, and opera and theatre and all these different things. Like a fantastic opportunity for everyone.
It was a great show as well. I really enjoyed it. It was very affecting. I left in a bit of a daze after I saw the final studio run. It's an amazing piece of theatre. Moving into the positives, that's your first production in the bag. You have produced a piece of theatre, and it is. I mean, obviously, as much as it is Roberts and the actors and the creators, the technicians, everything that went into it, it is the Bridge. It is the Bridge production of Vincent River, which is very exciting. So, do you think we'll see it again, or are you going to be too busy figuring out the next new thing to do?
We do have in mind potentially bringing it out at another occasion, not in Brussels, but perhaps somewhere else in Europe or elsewhere. That is in the thinking, but I think our priority here in Brussels is really to move forward with our longer term goals, which is to establish a permanent home of English language theatre somewhere in the city, and that's really what we're aiming towards at the moment.
How's that journey going? Are people coming forward with ideas, or are you finding potential locations?
Yeah, again, this is kind of about networking and knowing the city and knowing the different levers of power and knowing kind of the trends in what is happening in urban planning in general. I think, again, because of COVID, we're at this very interesting point in how cities function in the office spaces are generally going to decrease within the city. There's a lot of, I can't quite remember the statistic, but it's roughly 13 to 18% of the office space currently in Brussels is empty. And there's going to be a lot of conversion of these places into, housing or other things. At the same time, Brussels is undergoing a bit of a urban regeneration, and the regional government is really trying to make the city basically more livable, more green, less trafficky, more culture in the wider sense of things. And I think that from the region point of view, and also from the very specific kind of borough council commune point of view, there is great interest in seeing this project succeed, and that's really good. But at the same time, ultimately, in order to have this this venture successful, we need to find somewhere, and we are making progress on this. But I think it has to come from us. Essentially, we have to locate this place and kind of propose things towards different actors and see if that's achievable. Yeah. So we have a few places in mind for this, and we're still exploring things. I mean, for us, this is it's twofold. It's a long-term project to establish a home, but at the same time, what we've found and what's a little frustrating about Brussels is that it's very hard to find places to do activities just to rent on a normal basis. So either if you're looking at theatres, they're all booked up post-COVID. There's all this backlog of work. It's quite hard to actually find a slot, or you can only find a slot for a few days or something. Or also rehearsal venues, they're extremely limited in this city. And expensive. So you got this, both from rehearsals or like workshops, classes, it's difficult to find somewhere, and then also the venue for performances, it's also difficult to find somewhere. So with that in mind, and because we know that it will take a few years before we find or develop our own permanent home, we're also looking at the same time at establishing a temporary home, temporary being 1 to 3 years, somewhere as well. And that might be a more smaller scale, kind of rough and ready thing that for us is not too expensive to make into a theatre, because theatre is expensive, but allows us to do the activities that we want to do, because at the moment that's the key constraining factor, is not having places to do activities.
Maybe, as you say, maybe the opportunities are in the city, because I know the venue you rehearsed in London was essentially, as often arts venues, certainly rehearsal studios anyway, theatres are slightly different, because obviously you need capacity, you need to be able to bring people in, and a sort of theoretically maybe a performance space, along with all the tech and lighting and sound rigs that might come along with it. But in terms of rehearsals, it can essentially happen in some very flexible spaces. I've been in converted warehouses, old storage facilities, garages, and even office buildings. And essentially the place that you rehearsed in London was actually, it appeared to be a converted office building in near Liverpool Street. So maybe that's where the opportunity lies in Brussels as well, because it's the same sort of thing in London. There's a lot of a lot of properties now in the centre of London, which were office buildings, business centres, are just not being used, and businesses are finding, with only 2/3 of their normal staffing in at any one time, that they've got a whole 2 or 3 floors that they could let out, for example, to a young theatre company to come and rehearse. So if you're listening and you own or have a lease on an office building in Brussels, perhaps drop us a line.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, and that's why our conversations, yes, we're having conversations with estate agents, and we're having conversations with Brussels regional government, and also the communes, as well as the communities. But also we're talking to property development companies, the people who actually manage and run these big office spaces, or who are building these big new complexes. We're talking to other actors as well, who like co-working spaces, for example, who may also be interested in collaborating. So there's a whole world out there of opportunities we see, especially for rehearsal spaces. It's just about piecing it all together at this point.
So another bit of a catch-all question, maybe. What's been your personal highlight of the year, of your first year?
Difficult because it's been so
because it's all been so much fun.
So much to think about, and I'm still processing, I guess. I was lucky to have 2 weeks of quite quiet rest over Christmas, and that allowed me to kind of reflect a little bit. I think the thing that sticks in the memory is the final night of Vincent River. That was quite a thing. It was so nice to work with that team of people, and to be in that space in Full Circle in Ixelles, and undergo that process. And I was, I watched most of the performances, so I was with the actors kind of all the way through, and that was so nice to be a part of. And then also because the day after we had All Together Now, so it was kind of like there wasn't enough time for emotion to feel the emotion, although it kind of was there. But I tried to save it for then the day after, where we had a big kind of, we only had the theatre for one day, so we had to do the get in, so make sure all the and the rigging of all the lights and the sound checks and the technical rehearsal, the dress rehearsal, and then the 2 performances in the evening. So it was a busy day.
All in one day.
I know. It was intense, but that worked really well, and that was really, really good fun, and also for me, I guess the contrast between going from Vincent River, which was this very heavy, intense 2-hander play in the round in a studio space, to then going into a proscenium arch theatre with a cast of 40 people all singing, dancing, musical theatre. That's kind of, I enjoy those contrasts in theatre that you can get, and I was really proud of everyone involved, and so happy that I was part of facilitating that. So I guess that was probably the highlight.
So I was going to say, you mentioned there the not having time yourself to really to reflect properly until quite a lot later. You were talking there about events that happened in October, November, and then having time to reflect on them in January. Obviously this podcast is not just an advert for the Bridge. It is about the creation of a theatre, and as we've already discussed, a major aspect of that is you pouring your life and ideas into this project. It's great to hear that you're gradually building the team around you. You've got people who are also signed onto the project and doing things for you. You're building your team up. But if you are comfortable with it, can you talk personally as well about not just the sort of the business implications of the Bridge, but what's it taking from you or of you to set this up, and as well as a huge amount of time? You must be tired all the time.
Yeah, I was extremely tired and stressed at the end of Vincent River. That period was very, very, very difficult. I think that it's about, again, it's just the entrepreneurial world, I guess, isn't it? When you're setting up your own thing, and you need to be able to put limits on yourself and take breaks and pace yourself as much as possible, which I try to do, but at the same time, there's always seems something that needs to be done, or that I want to do, or I feel that the time is always passing by too quickly, and we're not going to get to the goals that we have set for ourselves. So, yeah, for me, it's this balance between basically doing too much and trying to find some time for myself. I think probably my there were 2 bad days for me, I think. One was actually at the first day of the summer workshop, which it was a scary moment, because this was the first public facing activity that we did. So it was like, oh, okay, is this actually going to work? Is what I had in my head, is that going to function? Basically, are people going to enjoy it? And we had 40 people aged 9 or 10 to 18 there. Most of them didn't know each other, so you have all these kind of no offense, or slightly awkward teenagers like sitting in a room together, not really interacting, being a bit quiet, and the atmosphere was a bit like nervously hushed and apprehensive, like, what are we going to do this week? And that whole day, I kind of had that feeling, it was slowly getting better, and you could slowly see people relaxing, but still that whole day I was like, I was thinking to myself, gosh, what have I done? Why am I doing this? Because I was too nervous to be enjoying it, I guess. But then the second day, already I saw such a difference, and it was so nice to see everyone getting involved, doing things, and then I was like, oh yeah, this is why I'm doing it, and I started to enjoy it. So I guess I was relaxing more. So that was one moment. And then the second moment was, I guess, towards the beginning of Vincent River, when we just weren't sure. We put a lot of effort into the first few shows and making sure there was a big buzz, and we weren't sure after that whether people would come, basically, whether the tickets would sell, and that was a really scary moment for me also personally, because we invested the money into it. There was no external financing, which was extremely risky to do, but kind of we felt that needed to be done. But it was making this work, yes, artistically, but also financially is always extremely important for me. So there's a few days where I was a bit like, oh gosh, maybe it's not going to work quite as well as I thought it was going to do. And then slowly things started picking up, and yeah.
Good.
It was good.
So it's ups and downs, but hopefully the ups outweigh the downs.
Yeah, I think the thing. Have you even asked me my highlights? But I think the thing that I've actually enjoyed.
I did.
Oh, did you?
I asked you for highlights.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
I think the thing. Well,
you said it was the last night of Vincent River.
Oh yeah, I take that back actually.
And then you immediately talked about the stress of Altogether Now, the day after, which you scheduled for the day after.
But the thing I've actually enjoyed most about this year is meeting the creative people that are here in Brussels, and it's such a weirdly diverse city that you have so many crazy, random, lovely people here and living here for different reasons. They're not necessarily Belgian, they're not even British, they're like other nationalities here. Yeah, and it's really cool, and it's like, and it feels, and that's really nice to kind of be part of this community and discover also a bit more and go, for me as someone who used to work in theatre, to go back into theatre a bit more solidly has been really lovely and really a nice feeling.
Beautiful. Well, we could talk for hours, for days, probably. I should imagine.
Days, yeah.
But let's not do that, because the podcast can only be sort of 45 minutes to an hour, can't it? So finish up then, Ed. So it's been really great to touch base after a whole year of the Bridge, hear about how, like I said, how fantastically busy the year has been and successful for you as an entrepreneur, but also for the foundation of something quite exciting, this English language theatre in Brussels. So my personal blessings upon you.
Right, thank you very much for
that. And good luck in everything that's coming up. Speaking of which, you've got lots of irons in the fire. What is coming up? What are we going to look out for? What's the next step?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I can't really tell you, to be honest, because we're at this very, very critical. Every stage is critical, but I feel we're at this very critical stage where there are things that could happen. There are many things that could happen, but nothing is kind of concrete at the moment. So at the moment, we have our 2 different workshops running. So we have our weekend workshops, which is 1 hour of singing, acting, and dancing on Sunday mornings. Mm-hmm. And that term is running, and there'll be another summer term from April. So if anyone wants to sign up, they can check out the details on our website. And then we also have our ACT workshops, which are kind of an introduction or a play with different acting styles and techniques. And they're happening on Monday evenings, and they're open to anyone who wants to sign up just for single sessions or for longer. So they are happening. But apart from that, there are lots of ideas. I think for me, I mentioned at one point temporary location, and for me that is we have somewhere at the moment in mind for this temporary location, but at the moment we're not sure how long it will take to get through the bureaucracy to enable us to actually use that place. So, and that obviously determines what we can do. And how we plan things. So in my ideal world, I would love to be able to have a series of kind of one-off or maybe 2 or 3 night events in June. That's kind of our thinking at the moment in this temporary venue. But because of the planning and building regulations here, which we're looking into right now, I'm not sure that's going to be possible. But then if that's not possible, then hopefully maybe by September we will be in a position to be able to actually possibly, lots of caveats here, possibly start our first season. But I mean there's all this hope plan, and we're planning and we're hoping for this, and we're trying to figure out exactly what we need to do in order to get that done. But at this stage it's all a bit uncertain.
Well, hopefully like the first year when everything also felt uncertain but for a slightly different reason, and things just fell into place through sheer goodwill and hard work. Hopefully that's what's going to happen this year, and you'll be able to run your first full, long, successful season, which will be very exciting. Well, thanks so much, Ed, for your time in your schedule, your busy schedule, and your candour, your honest and open approach to these questions. It's been great fun, as always.
Thank you.
And I shall see you for our next podcast in a month's time.